Rain hits the tall windows of Blackstone Manor like small stones thrown by someone hiding in the dark. Nia Holloway's hands shake under the kitchen faucet, water running over a knife she doesn't remember picking up. Somewhere behind her, a chair scrapes the marble floor. She doesn't turn around. She can't. Her phone sits face down on the counter, screen still warm from a video she wishes she'd never opened. 30 seconds ago, the room was empty. Now someone is standing in the doorway, watching her. She feels it before she hears it, that specific kind of silence that means a person is choosing not to announce themselves. The kind of silence that makes the back of your neck go cold. Nia grips the edge of the sink. Her knuckles turn pale. Whoever is behind her hasn't said a word, and somehow that's worse than shouting. Then a voice, low and even, cuts through the sound of running water. "Who hurt you?" Her whole body goes stiff. 3 staff members freeze mid-step near the pantry, trays balanced in their hands, eyes wide. A chef near the stove turns the burner down without being asked, like the air itself just changed pressure. Because the man standing in that doorway is Kang Min-jae, and in 8 months of working inside this house, Nia has never once heard him ask a servant anything personal. Not her name, not how she takes her coffee, nothing. Nia turns around slowly, wiping her face with the back of her wrist, smearing more tears than she wipes away. She tries to smile. It comes out crooked. "I'm fine, sir," she says. "Just tired." Min-jae doesn't move from the doorway. His eyes go from her face to the phone lying screen down on the counter, then back to her face. He already knows she's lying. Everyone in this kitchen knows she's lying. But nobody in this house corrects Kang Min-jae, and nobody expects him to press a lie twice. He presses it twice. "No," he says, "you're not." The 2 words land heavier than they should. A maid near the pantry drops a folded napkin and doesn't bend to pick it up. Because in this house, attention from Kang Min-jae is not a small thing. People who get his attention either walk away with their lives changed for good, or they don't walk away at all. Nobody in the kitchen knows yet which one this will be. Nia's throat tightens. She spent 8 months being invisible in this mansion on purpose. Keep your head down. Do the work. Don't be noticed. That was the rule she gave herself the day she signed the contract. Back when her mother's hospital bills were eating through every dollar she had left, and a stranger's job offer felt like the only door still open. And now, on the one night she let herself cry where someone could see her, the most feared man on the West Coast is the one who walked in. She looks down at the knife still sitting under the running water. Her hand had been holding it without cutting anything. Just holding it, the way you hold on to something solid when the rest of the world stops making sense. "It's nothing you need to worry about," she says quietly. Min-jae steps further into the kitchen. Not fast, not threatening, just closer. The way a man moves when he's already decided something and is only waiting for the room to catch up. The staff near the stove edge back without being told to. Somebody's cell phone buzzes in a pocket and gets silenced immediately, like even a phone ringing might interrupt something dangerous. "Show me your phone," he says. It isn't a request. Nia knows that much just from the shape of his voice. She glances at the screen, still dark, still holding the last frame of a video she can't unsee her younger sister Celeste. On the ground outside her own apartment building in Atlanta, 2 men standing over her, a small crowd of neighbors filming instead of helping. Nia had watched it 4 times before her hands started shaking too badly to watch a 5th. She doesn't want this world anywhere near her sister's world. She doesn't want a man like Kang Min-jae anywhere near the truth. But her chest feels like it's caving in, and the fear on her face has already answered the question before her mouth can catch up. "It was my sister," she whispers. The room goes so quiet that the sound of the faucet dripping feels loud. Min-jae's expression doesn't change, but something behind his eyes does a flicker, gone almost as fast as it appears, like a door opening onto a hallway. Nobody in this kitchen is allowed to walk down. He holds out his hand. "Show me." Nia's fingers hover over the phone. Every instinct she has says don't. Don't bring him into this. Don't let this world touch that world. But she's tired and she's scared. And there's a small, stubborn part of her that has watched this man for 8 months and never once seen him lie to a single person in this house, which, in a mansion built on secrets, might be the strangest thing about him. She turns the phone over and places it in his palm. He looks at the screen. His jaw tightens. Just barely, just once. Around them, nobody breathes. A bodyguard near the hallway shifts his weight, watching his boss's face the way you'd watch a storm cloud for the first sign of lightning. Because everyone in this house has learned the same lesson the hard way, when Kang Min-jae goes quiet like this, somebody, somewhere, is about to have a very bad week. He doesn't say anything for a long moment. Then he lowers the phone. And for the first time since he walked into that kitchen, he looks directly at Nia, not at an employee, not at a maid who cleans his floors and cooks his meals at her. "Who did this?" he says, "and where?" Nia opens her mouth to tell him it doesn't matter, that these men are dangerous, that she'll handle it herself the way she's handled everything else in her life alone, quietly, without anyone noticing. But the words don't come out, because something in the way he asked that question tells her this isn't curiosity. This is a decision already being made. And somewhere across the country, in a city that has no idea what it just woke up, two men who beat a woman on a sidewalk in Atlanta are about to find out exactly whose sister they put their hands on. If you want to see what Kang Min-jae does next, and trust me, it is not what anyone in that kitchen expects, subscribe so you don't miss the next part, and drop a comment telling me where in the world you're watching from. I love reading through and saying hello to as many of you as I can while this story keeps unfolding. The video plays a fourth time on the screen in the security office. And this time, Min-jae doesn't watch the men throwing punches. He watches the crowd standing behind them, filming instead of stepping in. His thumb hovers over the screen, frozen on one face in the back of that crowd, a man in a gray jacket who isn't filming at all. He's watching the camera, like he knew it was there. "Pull every plate number parked on that block," Min-jae says, not looking up. Two men in dark suits move without answering. Nobody in this room asks why. Nobody ever does. Nia stands near the doorway, arms crossed tight over her chest, watching the man who signs her paycheck turn her sister's worst day into a case file. Her stomach twists. She never wanted this. She wanted to handle it quiet, the way she's handled everything since her father died and her mother's kidneys started failing, and her fiancé cleaned out their savings account 3 weeks before their wedding and vanished into thin air. Quiet has kept her alive this long. "Please," she says. "Don't." Min-jae finally looks up from the screen. "Don't what?" "Don't get involved. These people are dangerous. You don't know who you're dealing with." Something moves behind his eyes, brief and cold. "Danger only matters," he says, when nobody answers it. He says it so plainly it almost sounds kind, and that's what scares her the most. Within the hour, the analyst team traces the gray jacket to a name. Darnell Ruiz, a mid-level enforcer working debt collection out of Atlanta for a group that launders cash through 3 casinos in Nevada and 1 riverboat operation outside Savannah, Georgia. Small time on paper. But the account paying Ruiz's crew traces back further through 2 shell companies into a name Min-jae hasn't heard out loud in 11 months. Marcus Whitfield. The screen goes quiet. So does the room. Whitfield runs shipping contracts up and down the West Coast, the same lanes Min-jae's company has controlled since before Nia was born. 6 months ago, 3 of Min-jae's cargo containers went missing out of the port of Tacoma. Nobody ever proved who took them. Now here's Whitfield's money, quietly funding the men who beat a woman on a sidewalk 2,000 miles away, a woman who happens to work in Min-jae's own kitchen. That isn't a coincidence, that's a message. Min-jae sets the tablet down slowly, and for the first time since Nia has known him, his hands are not perfectly still. "They didn't just hurt your sister," he says quietly. "They used her to get to me." Nia's breath catches. "Why would anyone use Celeste to get to you? Nobody even knows I work here." "Somebody knows," Min-jae says. "Somebody's been watching this house longer than you think." The words hang in the air like smoke that won't clear. Nia thinks about the past 8 months, every grocery delivery, every repairman, every new face that's come and gone through the service entrance. Any one of them could have been counting the days until someone inside this house became useful. Min Jae turns to the two men by the door. Get Celeste and her children out of Atlanta tonight. Private medical, private security, no paperwork with her real name on it. Sir, that's one of them starts. Tonight, Min Jae repeats, and the man stops arguing. Nia stares at him, stunned into silence. You don't even know her. You don't owe her anything. Min Jae is quiet for a long moment, long enough that Nia thinks he isn't going to answer at all. Then he says, so low she almost misses it, I had a sister once. People who wanted to hurt me went after her instead, because they knew I'd bleed faster that way than if they came for me directly. His jaw tightens. She didn't survive it. The room goes cold in a way that has nothing to do with the air conditioning. Nia doesn't ask what happened. She doesn't need to. She can see it settle over his face like a weight he's carried every single day since, dressed up in expensive suits and locked behind guarded gates, but never once sat down. I'm not doing this for you, Min Jae says, straightening. I'm doing it because I made a promise a long time ago, and I intend to keep it. By morning, a private helicopter lands outside an apartment complex in Atlanta, and Celeste Holloway is escorted out with her two children before the sun is fully up. Nobody on that street will ever know why. The loan is gone by noon, wired away by an account that traces back to nothing. The children are enrolled in a private school outside Seattle by the end of the week. Nia doesn't understand any of it. She spent her whole life being the one who gives, not the one who receives. And having someone else carry the weight for once leaves her standing in her small staff room, staring at her phone, unable to process a single word. She finds Min Jae in the hallway that evening and manages only one sentence. Thank you. He doesn't slow down. Don't thank me, he says. People who hurt the ones who can't fight back always come looking for the person who can. I just made sure they found the right one. That night, 300 miles away in a high-rise office overlooking the Nevada Strip, a phone rings on Marcus Whitfield's desk. He answers on the second ring, listens for exactly 4 seconds, and then a slow smile spreads across his face. So the maid belongs to Kang Min Jae now, he says. Perfect. He hangs up, and outside his window, the lights of Las Vegas blink on one by one, completely unaware that somewhere inside that skyline, a war has just quietly begun. Vivian Mercer smashes a porcelain plate against the counter hard enough that 3 staff members flinch, and then she looks straight at Nia like it's her fault the plate broke. Clean that up, Vivian says. And this time, do it right. Nia says nothing. She kneels down, picks up the pieces one by one, and doesn't let her hands shake, even though every part of her wants to. This is the 4th broken dish this week. The 3rd false report to the household office. The 2nd uniform she's had to replace out of her own paycheck after finding it slashed down the seam. 12 years running this house has given Vivian Mercer a kind of power nobody questions. And for reasons Nia still doesn't fully understand, that power has turned itself entirely against her. You think because he asked you one question in the kitchen that makes you somebody here? Vivian says, voice low enough that only Nia can hear it. Girls like you come and go. I've buried better women than you under this roof, and nobody remembered their names by Christmas. Nia keeps her eyes down and keeps sweeping. What Vivian doesn't say, what nobody in that kitchen knows, is that an hour earlier, in the privacy of her own office, she opened an encrypted message thread and typed out the household's entire weekly staff schedule, guard rotation times included, and sent it to a number saved only as a string of digits. She did it for the same reason she's done it for the last 2 years. $3 million sitting untouched in an account outside Min Jae's reach, waiting for the day she finally walks away from Blackstone Manor for good. She never expected the maid to matter. Now she does. And that makes the maid worth something to the people paying her. Meanwhile, upstairs, Min Jae finds himself in the kitchen at 7 in the morning for the 5th day in a row, which is 5 more mornings than he's spent there in the past 2 years combined. He tells himself it's because the coffee is better when Nia makes it. He knows that isn't the real reason. You added cardamom to this, he says, holding up the cup. My grandmother's recipe, Nia says, not looking up from the bread she's kneading. From Baltimore, she said cardamom fixes a bad morning. Does it work? Depends on how bad the morning is. He almost smiles. Almost. They talk like this most mornings now, nothing about business, nothing about the men in dark suits who follow him everywhere, nothing about the empire that runs quietly underneath every polite conversation in this house. Just bread, just coffee. Just two people who have both buried more than they've ever said out loud. One morning, without any warning, Naya asks him something nobody in 12 years has ever dared to ask. Are you lonely? The kitchen goes still. Even the sound of the oven seems to quiet down. Min-jae looks at her for a long moment, long enough that she almost apologizes for asking. Then, quietly, he laughs a real one, short and surprised, like it caught even him off guard. I own half the shipping routes on this coast, he says. I have more money than I'll spend in 10 lifetimes, and most nights I eat dinner alone in a room built for 40 people. He sets the coffee cup down. So yes, I suppose I am. It's the most honest thing Nia has ever heard him say, and something about it breaks her heart a little, for a man everybody in Seattle is afraid of. That same afternoon, Vivian watches the two of them through the security monitor in her office, jaw tight, fingers drumming against her desk. She picks up her phone and sends one more message, this one different from the rest. Tomorrow she leaves the property alone. Confirmed 3 p.m. The reply comes back in under a minute. We'll be waiting. Vivian sets the phone face down and pours herself a drink. Hands steady, expression calm, already rehearsing the version of herself who never knew a single thing. Downstairs, unaware that a countdown has already started on her life, Naya hums quietly while she pulls a fresh tray of bread from the oven, already planning what to bake for Celeste's kids this weekend, completely unaware that by 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, everything in this house is about to change. Nia's phone buzzes at 2:47 in the afternoon, and the message on the screen stops her cold in the middle of the hallway. Celeste is gone. Not gone like last time, not loan collectors banging on a door in Atlanta. Gone like vanished. Gone like her new security detail outside the school in Bellevue found an empty car seat and a broken side mirror and nothing else. Nia doesn't scream. She doesn't cry. She stands completely still for 3 full seconds, and then she starts running. She doesn't tell Min-jae. She doesn't tell security. She grabs her coat, slips out through the service entrance behind the garden wall, and gets into a rideshare 2 blocks from the property before anyone at Blackstone Manor even notices she's left the grounds. A text arrives on her phone before the car has gone half a mile. Come alone. Bring nothing. We already know everything. Her hands shake so badly she drops the phone twice before she can type back one word. Where? An address appears. A warehouse district outside Tacoma, near the water. The kind of place where nobody asks questions and nobody remembers faces. Back at the mansion, it takes 11 minutes for security to realize Nia's room is empty and her coat is missing from the hook by the service door. 11 minutes is all it takes for the entire estate to go into lockdown. Guards move through hallways with a speed the staff has never seen. Every door gets sealed. Every camera feed gets pulled and reviewed at once. Min-jae watches the footage in silence, frame by frame, his face carved out of stone. He watches Nia slip through the garden gate alone, watches her check her phone twice, watches her disappear around the corner toward the street. He watches it a second time, a third. Then he asks one question, quiet enough that everyone in the room has to lean in to hear it. Who approved today's staff exit logs? Vivian Mercer, standing near the back of the security office with a coffee cup in her hand, feels the floor tilt beneath her. She sets the cup down slowly. I did, she says. Her voice comes out steadier than she expects. Min-jae doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't even turn around right away. When he finally does, his eyes hold something far colder than anger, something closer to disappointment, and disappointment from a man like Kang Min-jae is somehow worse than rage. You've worked in this house 12 years, he says. Yes, sir. Then you understand why I already know. Within 4 hours, his intelligence team pulls apart 2 years of encrypted messages, 3 offshore accounts, and a payment history that traces $3 million straight back to a numbered account registered under a shell company in the Cayman Islands, the same shell company that funds Marcus Whitfield's operations out of Las Vegas. Vivienne doesn't run. There's nowhere to run to. She sits in a chair in the mansion's private study, hands folded, waiting for a punishment she assumes will be violent, the kind of ending she's heard whispered about for 12 years but never actually witnessed. It never comes. You weren't loyal, Min Jae tells her. You were expensive. There's a difference. And only one of them gets you killed in this business. You're not worth killing. You're worth exposing. By morning, federal investigators in 3 states receive an anonymous tip, complete with financial records so detailed it takes them less than a week to freeze every account Vivienne Mercer has ever touched. Her name will appear in a Seattle courtroom within the month. She will not see Monaco. She will not see freedom again for a very long time. Justice delivered without a single raised hand, but none of that matters in the next 60 seconds, because the real threat is still standing between Min Jae and the only 2 things he still has left to protect. Inside the Tacoma warehouse, Celeste sits tied to a metal chair, her 2 children pressed against her sides, both of them too frightened to cry out loud. Nia stands 10 feet away, hands raised, surrounded by 4 men she's never seen before, one of them holding a phone up to his ear. "Tell your boss," the man says into the phone. Eyes locked on Nia. "We want him here, alone. Or the maid and her family don't leave this building breathing." On the other end of that call, standing in the back of an armored SUV already speeding toward the port of Tacoma, Min Jae listens without a single change in his expression. "Nobody touches my people twice," he says, and hangs up. The line goes dead. Inside the warehouse, the man lowers the phone slowly, and for the first time since this started, something like fear flickers across his face, because everyone in Seattle's underworld has heard exactly what that sentence means, and none of them have ever heard him say it and lose. The warehouse door blows open before anyone inside hears a single footstep, and by the time the first guard turns around, it's already too late for him to do anything about it. Min Jae moves through the building like he's done this before, because he has, more times than anyone outside his organization will ever know. There's no shouting, no wasted motion, just calculated steps through cold concrete corridors that smell like rust and motor oil, past crates stacked 20 feet high, toward the sound of a child crying somewhere near the back. 2 of Whitfield's men go down before they even see him coming. A third raises a weapon and doesn't get the chance to use it. Min Jae's own security team moves in from the opposite end of the building, cutting off every exit, and within 90 seconds, the warehouse that was supposed to be a trap has become exactly the opposite. Min Jae finds Nia in the back corner, and what he sees stops him for half a second, not because she's crying, not because she's afraid, but because she isn't. She's on her knees in front of Celeste's children, her own body angled between them and the door, arms wrapped around both kids like she's the only wall standing between them and the entire outside world. Even terrified, she's protecting somebody else, exactly who she's always been. "You're safe," Min Jae says, kneeling beside her, cutting the rope binding Celeste's wrists with a single motion. "All of you, it's over." Marcus Whitfield doesn't wait around to find out how badly his plan has failed. He's already moving toward a speedboat docked behind the warehouse, engine running, 1 foot on the ladder when Min Jae's men catch up to him at the water's edge. He doesn't make it onto the boat. By sunrise, federal agents in 3 states have received evidence linking his shipping company to money laundering charges that will keep him occupied in courtrooms for years. All of it delivered anonymously, all of it untraceable back to Blackstone Manor. Officially, nothing happened at that warehouse. Officially, it was abandoned property, and whatever gunfire the neighbors heard that night was never confirmed by anyone willing to give their name. But quietly, in the parts of Seattle and Las Vegas and Atlanta where these things get whispered instead of reported, one lesson spreads faster than any headline ever could. Touch the people under Kang Min Jae's protection, and there is no version of this story where you walk away clean. Back at Blackstone Manor, the weeks that follow feel unfamiliar in the best possible way. The staff laughs in the hallways now, actual laughter, the kind that used to disappear the second Vivian Mercer walked into a room. Nia is offered the position of head of household operations, not out of pity, not out of favoritism, but because every single person on that staff trusts her, and trust turns out to be worth more in that house than fear ever was. Celeste reopens her bakery 2 months later, this time in Seattle, funded quietly and fully repaid within the year, because Celeste insists on paying every dollar back even though nobody asked her to. Her children start calling Blackstone Manor the big house with the good bread, which makes the kitchen staff laugh every single time they hear it. One ordinary morning, Nia stands at the same counter where this all started, kneading dough the way her grandmother taught her back in Baltimore. And Min Jae walks in the way he does now most mornings, no bodyguards trailing behind him, no urgency in his steps. She slides a warm cinnamon roll across the counter toward him without a word. My father used to say, she tells him, if somebody helps carry you through your worst day, you make sure you're part of one of their good ones. Min Jae looks down at the plate for a long moment. He doesn't say anything right away. He doesn't need to. The silence between them isn't the cold, careful silence that used to fill every room in this mansion. It's the kind of silence that only exists between two people who've earned each other's trust the hard way, through fear and loss and every quiet morning in between. He picks up the roll, he takes a bite, and for just a second, the most feared man on the West Coast looks like nothing more than a man enjoying good bread in a warm kitchen. Months pass. The mansion settles into something that almost feels like peace, which is a word nobody who has ever worked at Blackstone Manor thought they'd use to describe it. Then one afternoon, a plain manila folder lands on Min Jae's desk, delivered by a man who doesn't make eye contact and doesn't wait for a reply. Min Jae opens it alone, in the quiet of his private office, and finds a single photograph clipped to the first page, a shipping terminal he doesn't recognize. Somewhere along the California coast, crates stamped with a company logo tied to an organization far larger than anything Whitfield ever ran. Written across the top of the page in plain black ink are 6 words. They know about Nia Holloway. Min Jae closes the folder slowly. Outside his office, down the hallway, he can hear Nia's laughter carrying through the kitchen as she teaches one of the new staff members how to fold dough the right way, completely unaware that somewhere out there, a much bigger storm has already started moving toward this house. Sometimes the most powerful question in the world isn't asked with anger. It's asked with compassion. Who hurt you? If this story moved you even a little, hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss what's coming next. This channel is just getting started. And there are so many more stories like this one waiting to be told. Drop a comment and tell me which part hit you the hardest, and let's keep this story going together. Thank you for watching all the way to the end.